This is the whole Bible. First are those 17 books of history. What's fascinating is the way that Ezra put them in order. As he was copying them, he was thinking about this. He was thinking about the synagogues where they were going to read. And he set out, in fact, Ezra invented the synagogues. You wonder where synagogues came from? Ezra invented them. He invented biblical Hebrew, he copied the Bible, and he started the synagogues. He also ordered basically the books in this order. And what he did in each of these sections, he has 5 major books of history. We call those the what? What are the first 5 books called? Pentateuch. Yeah, 5. Pentateuch. There are also 5 major prophetic books that are at the head of the line. Then it's followed by 9 books that were written before Israel was exiled into Babylon. Fascinating. So are there 9 prophets that wrote before the exile. Then there are 3 history books about after Israel came back from Babylon. And while those 3 were writing the history, there are 3 prophets that speak to the people after they get back from Babylon. In the midst of all that, he put right in the heart, right in the center of the Old Testament, are these wisdom books. They're different than the other books. If you've ever noticed, they're just different. Job is a theology of suffering. In fact, most people believe that most Jews believe Moses wrote Job. Now, Job was a real person living in a real time right after Noah, living perhaps as much as 3,000 years ago, right after the flood. 3,000 years before Christ. You can pull the shifter back. David, Abraham, and before Abraham, probably Job. Somewhere between Noah and Abraham was where Job was. But Job didn't write down all of his travails. Most likely, the same author of the Pentateuch wrote those down to give to Israel while they were suffering under Pharaoh. And so it's a theology of the purposes. See, God never tells us why he allows us to suffer. He just tells us what he expects from us when we're suffering. He doesn't tell us why he allows us to have what Bill showed us, or to have a job interruption, or to have a health interruption, or to have a relational interruption. He just tells us what he expects from us through that. Then, the songs, psalm is song, it's a theology of praise, which is an element of worship. And it's an entire study of how we offer our worship to the Lord. Then Proverbs, interesting, is about practical living. It's kind of the individual, how to make friends and how to be careful financially and how to be careful sexually and how to have the proper parenting, how to have the proper marriage and how to be a good businessman and how to be disciplined in your life. It's just all those little practical truths. Proverbs. Ecclesiastes is amazing. Ecclesiastes is a vital book for thinking people. It's a theology of the big picture. It's not how to get a good deal and plow your field. It's why you're even here. Ecclesiastes is not, what did one commentator say, the vain babbling of a wicked old man. It's not. It's a divinely inspired theology of life. The ending, the last 2 verses say it all. In fact, the last chapter is incredible. I'm experiencing the last chapter. It says, you're going to come to a time where everything hurts and where you can't sleep at night and nothing tastes good. It's coming, you young people. But do you know what the Ecclesiastes ends with? Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God will bring every work into judgment according to that we have done, whether it's good or bad. Wow. The chapter starts with, remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth. It's an incredible book. It talks about how to get a good night's sleep, why we should have things, and it was written by a man who had everything. The smartest and the richest man that ever lived wrote this book. In fact, I thought a great title for it would be Rich Jew. Talks about money and marriage, or though you could change the wording a little bit, it would really be a bestseller. This is the book that my parents always told me, you can't read that one. So I couldn't wait to read it. It is one of the most fascinating books because, number one, it's a literal story about Solomon. You read chapter 8 of Song of Solomon, you know what's going on? Solomon was rich, had all these vineyards, and all the women wanted him for his money or his good looks or whatever, but he wanted a woman who picked him not because he was David's son or the richest or wisest man in the world. So if you read Song of Solomon 8, it says that he went into the vineyards, one he owned, but he went in like a picker. You know, we have the apple pickers and the whatever, you know, the grape trimmers, the migrant workers. He went in like a migrant worker in his own vineyard. And he picked opposite this young lady, and she fell in love with him. And just when she thought she was going to get to marry him, he leaves. And there's all those pages about, or I mean, those verses about, oh, you know, da, 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 da. And then in chapter 8, she's out picking, still sorrowing over her boyfriend that she thought she was going to marry that disappeared. And it says, and there comes Solomon at the head of 100 soldiers in their polished armor. And he's in this magnificent chariot, and he is the owner of the vineyard. And she comes out, and she's feeling bad because she has suntan, and women back then weren't supposed to have suntans because, you know, they weren't supposed to work, but she worked, and she thought, and she's just standing there, and here comes Solomon. And he turns, and probably is wearing his helmet, and he takes it off, and he looks at her. And she looks at him, and she says, that was you? And he says, that was me. And it has a happy ending. Boy, that would make a great movie. That's the Song of Solomon. Do you know what it's about? It's a much bigger picture. About the one who became a human and came alongside of us and loves us, and we love him, but he left. But he's coming back as the owner of all things. It's a beautiful parallel of Christ's love for us and Solomon's love. And so it's a theology of love and a theology of life and practical living. So that's how the Bible is designed.